As is so often the case with rainforests, and in spite of their proximity to the city, the areas around Sandakan are positively teeming with wildlife, in, as best we're able to determine, every size, shape and colour. Nature being what it is, of course, everything eats something else. And exactly what attempted to eat this Malay cruiser is unknown. Possibly something like this northern golden orb weaver, which, if you have any intention of visiting Sandakan or the forests around it, be warned, these do live at head height, and the spiders themselves can be up to 5 centimetres across. Thankfully, not every insect species that can be spotted around Sandakan is nightmare fuel, and some, like this lanternfly of indeterminate species, are positively beautiful, albeit slightly unusual in appearance, although they're not without problems themselves. Several months after visiting Sandakan, we came across another lanternfly species, the spotted lanternfly, which are currently reported to be causing significant problems in the United States. And some, like this frankly enormous katydid, which we believe to be of the species Onomachus unionatatus, but corrections are welcome, are so large or vibrantly coloured in the case of the lanternfly that it's a wonder they survive at all without being eaten. This individual in particular was well over 5 centimetres in length, and on the rare occasions it managed to get itself off the floor, sounded less like wings flapping and more like someone hitting a rug with a stick. But part of this may have been the fact that it was flying particularly frantically to escape from a bird before nearly landing in our lunch. But the species that absolutely takes the crown for both interesting and disconcerting is the stingless bee. While the bees themselves are reasonably unremarkable, apart from their size, typically being much smaller than the bees we'd commonly encounter in Europe, it is the entrances to their nests which are just vaguely disquieting. Moving up the trophic scale, albeit possibly only slightly, we meet a very nearly familiar face in the form of the many-lined skink, which, quite frankly, don't feel quite as distinct from the 5-lined skink we've encountered previously, considering the impressive distance between them. However, our next spot, despite also being a distant relative of a species met previously, was quite distinct, in the form of the green-crested lizard, which is a distant relative of the agama, and apart from their eponymous crest, they have a number of interesting characteristics. First and foremost, they have the ability to change their colour from this vibrant grass green to a brown or greyish colour, which appears to vary between individuals, and their extraordinarily long tail, which can be over 3/4 of their total nose to tail length. And as you can see here, on each hand, their 3rd and 4th digits are particularly long by comparison to the others. It may well be that these digits give the green-crested lizard some advantages in the canopy, where they compete with a vast number of other lizard species. One of the most notable, however, is this, Dracocornutus, one of the flying dragon or Draco family of lizards, which, unlike the butterfly lizards we observed in Langkawi, are absolutely and categorically capable of using the extended skin flaps around their ribs to glide from treetop to treetop. Unfortunately, we weren't able to observe this behaviour directly, but the strongest gliders within the Draco genus have managed a glide ratio of 6:1, losing just 10 metres in height over a glide distance of 60 metres, which, considering they're about 20 centimetres in length, is particularly impressive. Unlike almost every other of the 41 Draco subspecies, Draco cornutus does not display cryptic coloration. As a result, they stand out like a sore thumb on the largely brown branches and trunks of the trees in the forest, and apparently rely exclusively on their gliding ability to escape from potential predators. The wing-like structures that allow this gliding, called patagium, alongside the brightly coloured dewlap, which you can see this individual displaying along his throat, are used by the males during both courtship and territorial disputes. The Draco species are insectivorous, although this individual, when an ant crawls over its tail from behind, proceeds to flick it off the tree with its tail, rather than turning around to eat it. Of course, the lizards don't have it all their own way. As they predate upon insects, they are in turn targeted by predators of their own, and aside from the numerous birds which target them, one of their most significant threats is the red-tailed racer, shown here in its yellow morph. Also known as the arboreal rat snake or the red-tailed green rat snake, the typical coloration for the species is that of a green body with a reddish-brown tail. However, in Panay in the Philippines there exists a grey-coloured morph with a yellow head, and these individuals, seen in the forest around Sandakan, were a particularly striking shade of bright yellow. That, for us at least, hindered classification for quite some time. Another unusual characteristic of the species as a whole is that their black tongue occasionally has bright blue flashes along the side, which we were delighted to find that both the individuals we filmed actually displayed. A fully grown adult red-tailed racer can be up to 2.4 metres in length, and despite being described as robust or thick-set, depending on the sources you're reading, they are agile and powerful climbers. One individual that we observed was climbing out across a branch, probably about half its own diameter, 10 to 15 metres up in the canopy, and seemed to be heading directly for a cluster of nests that were being built by black and yellow broadbills. Last but very certainly not least, we come to the mammals. There are some very large and very notable mammals found on Borneo, which we'll cover in other episodes, but I'd like to start with a controversial pick, namely the pygmy tree shrew. And to forestall the angry comments on the heading at the bottom of the screen saying squirrels, the Malay name for this species is tupai, meaning squirrel or small animal that resembles a squirrel. Even smaller than the pygmy tree shrew, our next spot is one that has been quite difficult to find any useful information about. The Lowe's squirrel appears to be particularly elusive among the family, and very little appears to have been done in order to study them. What little information we were able to find is that they are positively diminutive at up to 250mm in length, nose to tail, and that they have an unusually broad diet for squirrels, consisting of insects, fruit, fungi and bark, and will also nest in a broad variety of locations, including cavities in trees, low branches, or even burrows. The next species we observed, had we not met the black giant squirrel previously in Langkawi, would have been by far the largest squirrel we'd ever seen, at up to 50 to 60 centimetres in length, is the Prevost squirrel, also known as the Asian tricoloured squirrel. There are as many as 44 species of Prevost squirrel that have been described, largely distinguished from one another by coloration. although this does vary heavily. In 2005, one source cited 6 subspecies, and in 2012, another source cited 32. And in a similar turn, our next spot, which is one of the largest squirrels in the world, with a total length of up to 76 centimetres and weighing as much as 1.5 kilograms, the cream-coloured giant squirrels of Borneo are also particularly dark in their coloration, and are much closer in their coloration to a typical Prevost squirrel than the Bornean subspecies